And that's the honest to goodness truth. And you were so naive and Midwestern prim, you didn't even catch it.
There's something about my mind.
I want to know, if he told that story, I can tell my Mardi Gras story.
Okay. What's your Mardi Gras story?
It's long.
Okay.
It's raunchy.
It's raunchy? Well, we got to hear
Jerry,
it.
can I tell it, you think? Larry Youngblood
Oh,
story.
yes,
tell the Larry Youngblood story. Okay.
That's famous.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
I've never told it on the air. I mean, it
No,
happened,
it happened.
on the air.
Wayne Mack and I collapsed. Collapsed.
Tell us.
John, the producer doesn't, the director's saying hurry up. I
Right
can't
in for it.
tell
Right
it
in
fast.
for it.
I have
Okay,
to
well,
tell
let's
it.
bring on Alec.
Yes.
Because Alec is with us. Alec Gifford.
Look at this picture. He wishes.
Isn't it amazing?
He hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed.
The only thing that's changed is the color of your hair. That's
and only
amazing.
slightly.
And that was way back in the 50s.
I figured that picture was made somewhere around 1958.
Yeah,
Incredible.
fantastic.
But Jan, look at everybody. You know, when I came here, I said nobody's gotten older, and I mean it. It's weird. Is it like the picture of Dorian Gray? You know?
But you should see the pictures home in the
That's
closet.
what I'm wondering about. I mean, look. Look.
Hey, look! Hey, look, Terry.
Let me see if your socks match.
My socks
A
match.
lot of times the socks
Now,
don't
wait.
match.
Now, my fellows. Now, let me tell you what Terry used to do to me. Terry used to, every time I would come over there, Terry would say, Alec Gifford, your shoes aren't shined. And guess
And
what,
they're
Terry?
still not. Oh, yes, they are.
Yeah.
Those are the
That's
stage
shine.
Splendor.
What's going on, folks? You know I had to go out and make a phone call. Guess what? You want to know what I'm doing these days?
Yeah.
I'm doing a program called Midday.
You kidding?
Who isn't?
Channel 6 program called Midday, 11:30 to 12 noon. I'm anchoring that every day now with Stephanie King.
Is
It's
it-
still called. It's
you
not
don't
the same
have
show.
us good people
It's not the same
on,
show.
no.
It's the same name.
It's a new show.
But it's a news show.
It's a news show. It's
Essentially.
sort of, when I think back what we were doing back in those days, you know, I was listening to what Al Shea said a few minutes ago. We didn't realize what pioneers
That's right.
we were in this business at the time. My, how times have changed.
And remember, Alec, you would come on, you would go out and do a news story, then you'd rush into the midday studio, and as we went on the
Hildy
air at 12
Johnson.
o'clock, yeah, and there you'd be, right there. So tell us some of the things that you remember that we really broke on Midday. A lot of that stuff you broke right there.
You know, it's kind of hard to remember some of the stories we broke in that, but I'm going to recall a story about a famous election. We interviewed the mayor every Friday, didn't we? Every Friday, was it?
Did you call it interviewing or badgering?
Badgering. Mayor Morrison used to come in, dear old Chep Morrison, God rest his soul. We used to watch Chep going back, and the first thing that happened to go in the makeup department. Chep had a little hair problem. We don't know anything about that, do we, Nat?
No. I've never had a hair problem. I've never had hair.
Well, Chep Morrison never had hair, but he had a hair problem. And he used to go back in the makeup department, and Stan Raines would sit back there and draw hair on his head. And we always used to kid about that. Stan Raines would say, oh boy, if I could sell a photo of this to Earl Long. So he would, but anyway, so Chep went on to become ambassador of the Organization of American States, and then it came time to have an election. And we had Vic Skiro, who was on every Friday, running against Adrian Duplanche, who was running for mayor. And the night before the election, Vic Skiro suddenly had a severe attack of appendicitis. Do you remember? And had an operation. And Adrian Duplanche always said that he lost by Vic Skiro's appendix. And he said, I would like to go back in the operating room. I want to check that appendix. Just one of my little silly midday stories.
Dug that up well.
Remember that?
Yeah,
Can you remember,
now.
what about some of the
Adrian's
big news stories of the 60s? Do you recall any of those that we broke on Midday?
Well,
You know,
Alec, I think we drove back together when Kennedy was assassinated. We were on
Yes.
one of our caravans.
We
Do
were-
any of you remember that?
Keesler Air Force Base.
Keesler
Is that
Air
where it
Force.
was? Yeah.
Yes, and we were all at lunch. Who remembers that story?
Yeah.
Everybody.
all there,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And someone came in, a colonel or someone, and said Kennedy was assassinated.
And we drove
And
back
did-
to New
and
Orleans.
you and I drove back
Yeah,
together, right.
Except
But-
I was in town then. I was not with you on that
That
trip.
was it. That was it. And we just sat there and we didn't think it was true. We thought, what a rotten joke, what a lousy
Yeah.
joke. We thought that
The
he was
commander
just.
walked in and he said, "You're
Were
up."
you
Paul?
with us, Paul? Were
Yeah. Wait, we can't hear you though, Paul. So we'll have to get that a little bit later on when we mic you, okay?
That's right. When you and I drove back with the radio on the whole time.
Right, and you were
back to
crying a lot too. You were
Well,
very. Terry
nothing's
is an emotional
changed.
person, and I'm not being facetious. That she was very much upset, and it was a sad day.
Yeah.
And then the news came that he was in fact dead, and it was. We came back, and the next day I think Terry even missed the show a couple of days.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She was really upset.
You see, what Midday did was Midday tracked what was happening in our world in those years, the late 50s, early 60s, and into the 70s. Morrison was our mayor when the show began and was a regular guest on the program, the Morrison years. The Morrison years were tracked by the Midday years. The Morrison years were the years of physical improvements to New Orleans, the end of corruption in the police department, and all these stories were the stories we were covering on Midday. Morrison went out of office, Skiro came in. And just as Morrison went out of office, Terry, you're going to remember what happened. The Supreme Court desegregation rulings had all gone into effect. The kids were marching in front of the school board offices. We had water cannons out in the street. And Skiro took over. And I remember Skiro saying, Morrison is lucky to go out of office before this problem hit. So Morrison had all the physical improvements to New Orleans to bring in. And then the years of Skiro came on. And when Skiro came on, then, of course, desegregation was the big story of the land. And, of course, we all remember, as Nash does, Betsy being the most horrible hurricane that had hit 68 people killed down there in the lower 9th Ward area. So, you know, Midday tracked the events of New Orleans.
And let me interrupt here just a minute, because someone who's tracked my life is someone that you're going to see.
I wondered where he was.
Yes.
What's his
Bob
name?
won a Lulu, and we're going to see the show that won him the Lulu in New York.
Still wearing that stuff.
Look at this.
That's before the mustache.
I remember back then.
Oh, boy.
In fact, Bob received 3 Lulus. You received more Lulus, and I left you in the other part of the studio.
I think we should explain what my Lulu was.
Well, explain your Lulu, honey.
Maybe you can explain this.
Nothing changed.
The Lulu.
Quit giggling.
The Lulu is an award for expert reporting and fashion design, and it's given out by the Men's Fashion Association. And there were 2 fellas named Lou. One was Lou Goldberg and one was Lou Goldstein, and the Lulu Award was named after these 2 Lou fellows who were very prominent in the Men's Fashion Association. And so the Lulu Award, I used to say, come over and see my Lulu. And we had 3 of them lined up on the mantle.
So you have 3 Lulus?
Yeah.
You know, Al, you gave me that picture.
Everybody knows 2 is enough.
Now, come on now. You remember, you know, Al, you gave me that picture of Bob in the hospital bed that we showed earlier. And Bob, tell what happened to you the day that you wore the white suit.
The day I remember the day I wore this white suit, Janet and I were leaving for
The Greek Islands.
Greek Islands the next day. This was on a Friday, I think. We did this live, and that's a videotape of it, I guess. And we did it live, and I went off the air. I was going to go to my radio show. I had a splinter in my finger. I went up, and I went to the radio area, and Betty Gasson, who was our record librarian and remained a dear friend, was taking a splinter out of my finger, and I passed out. I don't know why, but it hurt like the devil, and I passed out in my white suit on the floor of the radio studio. And Louis Reed, bless his soul, because he hired us, came in and said, what happened to him? What happened to him? I'll do anything, I'll do anything. And I kind of came to, and I thought, I'd like to ask for more money. And they hauled me down that awful stairway head first, put me in an ambulance, and off they went.
And remember, that was a circular stairway.
Yeah, it was,
You know,
Did you get a
that went down
raise?
I didn't get a raise. I had hospitalization, that was enough.